5, 4, 3, 2, 1. George, welcome to the Danger Zone. Little walk and talk.
The Danger Zone. It's, bud, since you started this podcast, I've really enjoyed your take and your approach with it all, and it only keeps getting better. We're sitting here right now on rocks, barefooted, which we walked down here to the beach, and seriously enjoying what this earth is offering us right now. I'm pretty sure everyone right now is listening to the beautiful sound of the ocean. I'm gonna go ahead and quiet down a little bit so they can listen, because that's the only thing they can do right now.
So peaceful.
It's so peaceful.
I already feel myself getting in a meditative state, and that's what we're going to talk today about. But first, George, why don't you introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about how you got into fitness and where it's taken you and where you are now.
Well, my name is George Briones, guys. I actually was in the Marine Corps, served as a reconnaissance communicator, got to have a good time with Danny here on a deployment to Afghanistan, which was talked about it pre-show, was one of those things you really don't remember much of.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just like a blank space.
It's kind of a blank space. But honestly, what happened was after we got back from that deployment, I ended up getting sent over to the schoolhouse as a BRC instructor. And it was one of those things where I wanted to make sure that we were training these kids up to the best of our ability that was going to allow us to, get these guys prepared for the war that we just came back from. And unfortunately, that war that we had done and that deployment that we had done, that war we were in, was starting to die out. And, that didn't mean we stopped training these guys like we needed to be trained or how we wanted to be trained and what we did to get ready for it. But, it was something by leading by example as a leader and as a mentor, and not just telling these guys on a tactical level, like, hey, this is how you walk in a range of fire, or this is how you conduct actions on an objective, or this is how you program a 117 to do SATCOM, right? It wasn't always just about that. It was always about leading by example and showing them at what leaders do. And, I always believe this, right? Like, just because you have a team leader doesn't mean that the point man can't take the team leader's job or needs to do it. One thing that we always talked about is we need to be able to do every single person's job in that team.
That's huge, dude. That's a huge point, because that's one of my pet peeves is somebody jumping into a truck and not knowing how to use a Blue Force tracker or something.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's life depends on you knowing everybody else's job. That's what makes the team.
That's exactly what makes the team. And it was funny is so I started teaching that to my students, and whenever I had them in teams, because that's how I worked at BRC as an instructor, you got to get a hold of a team and you worked with them throughout patrol phase or whatever else. So with that being said, it opened my eyes to, fitness. And, we have some good friends. We have Rodney Isaacs and Brandon Finn, who opened my eyes to fitness in Afghanistan. Because they were doing this weird thing back in 2010 where they were like spiking their heart rate with thrusters and pull-ups, and I didn't know what the hell they were doing, but I heard it was this thing called CrossFit. So I went ahead and immersed myself into it 100%. And we got back from that deployment, really kind of took hold of trying to really learn as much as possible. And it led me down that hole that the next 4 years while I was this instructor, it opened my eyes to coaching and leading, and that passion that I really loved was to teach others to understand, like, this is what is out there and we can learn from and we can grow from it. It's going to help you live a healthy lifestyle. Fast forward, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014, back into that actually in 2015. I was now running my own company, which was GB3 Athletics at the time, riding for individual athletes, working at other gyms, really making a difference, creating foundations of, what I really believed in, that what was longevity at that time period.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It was because everyone was so receptive and so open to really understanding, hey, okay, cool. This is how you move better. This is how you don't have to always go in there and just drive yourself into the ground all the time and everything else like that. And at that time period is when I actually got called up by Brett Fish, who owns Soflete. And he asked me, he's like, hey man, I want you to come on as a coach to be one of our Soflete coaches out in SoCal. I was like, hey, I'd love to do it. And really taking the realm from there and really understood is hey, everything is not handed to you, and you have to go out and learn, and you have to research it and come and bring it back. So I ended up doing that. I ended up really immersing myself into the strength and conditioning realm of fitness, learning what nutrition was, learning what movement was, learning the anatomy of the human body, learning how the brain works, learning how all the systems work as a whole to really build this foundation that I can grow off of and continue growing as a coach and still growing today. I mean, it's been 8 years now that I've really been in this realm of fitness and understanding, and I'm only still growing, right? So I got into that, owned my own gym, worked for other gyms, whatever else, learned like, hey, I want to make a bigger impact on a bigger level. Yeah. And softly really opened the doors of being like, hey, let's bring you on as full-time as the head of human performance. And I've been really blessed to be there with them. They've helped me with some continuous education with coaching and really support everything I do. And a lot of times what happens, is people don't want to seek out help to like learn about fitness. They think it's going to a weekend seminar and that is it. And realistically, that is not how you learn to become a fitness enthusiast, or I like to consider myself a human performance optimist.
How did you do it?
It actually started, man, I did a lot of interning, a lot of shadowing of coaches. I've been really blessed to be around a lot of good coaches that are out there to this day in the weightlifting realm and the CrossFit realm, along with the strength conditioning realm and as a whole. And really just digging, and like I said, I'm one of those type of guys, dude, that immerses myself into everything and anything. And this is where it's gonna lead us in talking about the meditation and talking about, breathing work and talking about slowing down and talking about the grounding that we're doing right now.
Yeah, before this thing starts beeping like crazy, I'm gonna go grab this drone out of there and we'll continue talking.
Word.
Hey, it's a work in progress.
Hey.
But yeah, no, I just had, so for those of you who don't know, you're gonna be able to join us through drone footage, I think. I lost connectivity, so I had no idea what I was filming. I was just hoping I could recover it and keep it from crashing in the ocean.
Yeah, no shit.
But let's get up and walk, or do you want to chill?
No, I'm cool, man. If you can walk all you want, dude, let's do it.
Okay.
I like to walk. Walking is good for me. Walking is good for everybody. Oh, look at this, bro. Look at these meditation rocks.
Yeah. Got a little, what do they call those? Karens?
Yeah, they call them, I think it is called Karens, yep.
And then we got some little squirrels up here joining us.
Nice.
Some little ocean squirrels.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Careful now.
So dude, before we get into meditation.
Hey guys.
I want to point out that you made a really important point, which is you got introduced to this by Rodney and Brendan, right? And then you just poured yourself into it.
Yeah.
Right? You just took a deep dive and just really immersed yourself in it. And I think that's what I try and do when I do things in life. I'm not just showing up to just be like a participant, or I want to get involved in it. I want to get plugged into whatever I'm doing, and not just doing things to just do them, but with intention. And that carries over to with relationships, being very intentional in my conversations with people, and when I do something new, when I'm exploring a new area of my life, like sailing or something like that, I'm gonna really get into it and do the research, like you're saying.
Yeah, dude.
I think that's a really important point.
It's funny, is and what's led me to this intention of not just of my breath or of whatever I'm doing at that time moment. It was something that was instilled in us in the Marine Corps, right? Everything you do has a purpose and an intention for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, the reason why you take this, you enter this door a certain way, this is the way you patrol a certain way down an alleyway, all those kinds of things. There's a purpose and there's an intention behind it. And a lot of times what happens is we end up forgetting how to utilize that in the real world. Right? We forget to utilize that in the real world, which ends up creating this problem, of really finding who we are internally. So I really took that to heart, man, and really was focusing, like you said, the just immersing myself into it, which is what led me to all this breathing work, meditation, grounding, just this whole holistic approach to life now.
Yeah, here we are grounding and podcasting.
We're literally walking barefooted right now. We're walking barefoot on the beach. It's high tide right now.
Yeah.
Now we're walking on the street, just enjoying the earth, what it has to offer to us. And I wouldn't have gotten into any of this stuff if it wasn't for fitness.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Like, I probably would not have changed who I was if it wasn't for fitness. And not even competing or being an athlete. Because I tell you what, when I was an athlete and when I was trying to compete at that high level of CrossFit back in the day, when I was trying to make regionals in the open and all that stuff, I shut everyone out of my life.
Yeah.
Shut everyone out of my life. All it was about was train, work, sleep, and that was it. Everything else got put to the side. And, you know, as I stepped away from that, I became more of a coach and really taking on that coach's role. I really had to understand and realize that everything that I'm doing has to have a purpose and an intention, because it's not only my life now, it's their life. It's my athlete's life in front of me.
Yeah.
You know, it's my athlete's life in front of me now who I have to help reach a certain goal. They came to me for help.
Wow.
So I have to do something, and I have to create that intention to give them everything possible.
Yep.
And that led me to understanding is like, I could emotionally connect with all my athletes and give them everything emotionally, mentally, and physically, but I wasn't giving myself anything like that at all.
Yeah.
Because I was giving it so much to everyone else that I didn't know how to give it to myself. So what ended up happening was I started going into this downward spiral, feeling like I was gonna burn out. And I was like, man, I don't know what I need to do. Like, I know this is what I want to do. I know I want to live this lifestyle, and I want to continue teaching and pushing it to everybody.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know, you know, I didn't know where to go. So what I started doing was looking into different types of heart rate variability, right? Which it tests the seconds between each heartbeat to let you know if you're recovering enough or if you're not recovering enough. And what a lot of people don't realize is your heart actually is a muscle.
Oh yeah, big time.
And what it is, it also has
It's
DOM.
the muscle.
It is the muscle, right? And there's this thing called DOMS, delayed on muscle soreness. And your heart also gets that.
Yeah.
So let's say on a Monday you work out super hard. Tuesday you come in, you check your heart rate variability, and it's a lower score. Cool, I didn't recover from Sunday maybe because I drank too much or I was out partying or whatever else. I don't do that. But back in the day, if I knew this, started seeing that was happening, right? And I kept seeing like my numbers being super low, and I was like, what the fuck? Why are my numbers so low for? Why am I not recovering? I'm eating right, I'm sleeping enough, I'm training my ass off, I'm just not recovering. What is going on? And I was like, looked into breathing work. And when I talk about breathing work, I was learning, I ended up realizing that I was in such a high sympathetic state, right? Which caused this overdrive and this, you know, adrenal fatigue and this low testosterone and this lack of energy. I started seeing lack of appetite and was getting sick all the time. And I was like, there has to be something else besides, like, you know, what is there out there to fix this? So I started seeing how breathing alters your state of mind. It alters how your heart reacts to things. You control your heartbeat that way. I saw that it starts controlling your central nervous system. I started that it was the very first thing we do when we come out of our parents',
Yeah.
you know, when we're born.
The breath of life, dude.
The breath of life, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the first thing the doctor looks for. What's the last thing you do on this earth before you die?
Yeah.
Your last exhale.
Yep.
You inhale to create life, you exhale to get rid of life. That's what happens on two ends of those spectrums. So I started doing a little bit more research into it, led me into some people who are some really good mentors of mine, you know, that I look up to. Brian McKenzie, who's, you know, someone that I've always looked up to for endurance aspect and everything. I saw he was doing a lot of stuff with breathing, and I was like, I'm gonna try messing around with this stuff. I started playing around with it, really dove myself into it, and really immersed myself into understanding, you know, how to do different breathing protocols. You know, how do you upregulate your central nervous system, how to downregulate, and when I say downregulate, get yourself into a parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. So I know that, like, if I can breathe in through my nose, nice and slow and controlled, and long exhale, what I end up doing is I start activating the valgus nerve of, you know, which strengthens my parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, there has to be more to this. What is it? You know, and you talked about it. You found yoga. You love yoga. Yoga teaches diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is what it was, right? It was I was not breathing properly, and it was causing this lack of oxygen to my brain, which was causing this inflammation and this never evolution of growth that my brain needed.
Yeah.
And I was like, makes sense. Let's start getting more oxygen to the body, more oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
Again, one of my favorite guys, his name is Ido Portal. He's a big time movement specialist. He says that the mind and body are one, right?
Okay.
The body controls the mind and the mind controls the body. And you know, when people think about trying to be mindfulness really means to have an empty mind.
Right.
You know, like when you're trying to be mindful and all that good stuff, it's actually just trying to be clear, mind clear, clarity.
Yeah.
And it kind of made sense to me. I was like, all right, cool. So what are all these, you know, this movement specialists and yogis and Brian McKenzie talking about this breathing work? What are all these people doing that is creating this positive energy in their life that is just making them grow so much at this late time in their life?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, how is that possible? I'm getting ready to be, I was like, you know, I was just turned 29. I was like, how am I feel like I'm dying inside, right? And I thought I was doing and I thought at that time period I was healthy and I was living life and everything else like that.
Yeah, you're doing the CrossFit and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And realistically, what I was doing, I was actually just harming myself. So fast forward all the way through all that, bring me into the back end of last year where I really submerged myself also into meditation and movement work and really seeing like, hey, I don't have to go into the gym and kill myself all the time.
No.
I can go into the gym, do some low aerobic work, maybe some movement work, and I'm actually gonna be just as fresh. Again, our ancestors didn't have fucking 24-hour fitness and LA fitness or CrossFit gyms to go lift weights and pick things up.
Yeah.
What did they do? They ran a lot. They chased and hunted their food.
Yeah.
They fished, they swam if they were in that area.
They built stuff.
They picked up objects like we're looking at right now here at the beach.
Built rock walls and stuff.
All those kind of crazy, amazing things that the earth has given us. And I was like, all right. So I started immersing myself into it again, like kid. And I like use that word immersion because I love that word.
Yeah.
Because I think that you can never immerse yourself into anything too much if it's good for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with breathing because, again, like you said, it's life.
It is, dude. It's 100% life. You know, ooh, going through some water.
Dude, it feels so good.
Oh, it feels so good.
No telling what's in it. I'm not saying it's healthy water, but it feels good on the feet for sure.
Oh. But yeah, so it really got me to the state where it was like I started fixing myself internally.
Yeah.
I really started fixing myself internally, and it started not only showing in my professional career, but it started showing me in my personal lifestyle.
Really? Yeah.
I was able to start understanding again what empathy was.
Yeah, totally. Getting in touch with like feelings and what are
again.
These things?
I was like, what is emotions?
Yeah.
What is emotions, you know? And it was like, for the longest time, I was stopping this change that my body wanted to have, right? And I look at it like this, you know, we were becoming somebody that we weren't because we were living in the past and we were never looking forward.
Yeah.
But the problem is those.
Oh, dude, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's like everyone lives in the past and never wants to live going forward when that's all we're supposed to be doing is going forward.
So many, I mean, we're talking about, you know, I guess if we put it in our former communities, like, or, you know, we are veterans, you know?
Yeah.
If you put it in those terms, I think one of the problems that our community has is staying too attached to the former.
Yep.
Like, that was just a period of your life. That was a chapter.
Yeah.
Like, time for the next chapter to start getting that rise in action or whatever, you know, like we need, you can make the next chapter better.
Yes.
Than it was.
You can always make the next chapter better. And it was funny, as I recorded a podcast yesterday with a good friend of mine named Kevin Almantra. He just dropped his first book called Relentless State of Mind. And one thing that we talked a lot about was rewriting our story.
Yeah.
Right? And we talked about this pre-show also was most of the time what happens is we get taught how to rewrite our story to go to deployment, right? That's how we get taught how to do it. But we don't get the help to how to rewrite it to come back to civilization to where now we have to go into our loved ones' lives who got used to us being gone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it creates this downward spiral of negativity. And this is the reason why we see all of our brothers who, you know, start taking their lives or reaching out for help and not really doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, man, why? So what do we need to do to that, right? What do we need to do as a whole? And then what I started looking at with fitness was, it was my outlet.
Yeah.
It was my outlet, but I was getting too immersed. I was not getting too immersed into it. I was letting myself not changing or evolving in that fitness realm aspect. I might have been growing as a coach, but I wasn't letting it help me grow outside of it also.
Do you think we were kind of like I think you were touching on it earlier, you're kind of shutting out some of those things that needed to happen in your life?
Yes.
You know, and so, yes, the fitness, like you're in shape, right, and stuff like that, but like you said, it was harming your body because you're ignoring the things your body needs, which is the relaxation, the
breathing. Well, not just that, right? Like, as human beings, we're meant to love. We're meant to have an attachment.
Have empathy.
We're meant to have empathy, right? And like all of a sudden I was shutting all this stuff out, and I was getting so internal to like just focus on like building this business that I thought was gonna be the end all be all. And realistically, I was like, oh man, I'm hurting myself. So going into the meditation aspect, you know, I actually really enjoy the meditation aspect because you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, you really can. Yeah, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah, you can do it anywhere. And when I look at it that way, right, it's like, for instance, like whenever you start feeling aggravated, like sit there, close your eyes, take in 5 deep inhales and long, slow exhales, and just focus on your breath. And let me know what it feels like when you're done.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, it's gonna alter your mood and the state that you're in. I do it all the time because, again, we're all human. I'm human. Do I sometimes get that like urge of like, ugh? Yes, I do. But I've learned how to control it and learn how to come in and out of this place. And what happens is, and the people that don't know how to control it are the ones that end up getting this overdrive. And I look at it like this as a cup.
Yeah.
We have a cup, right? And if we fill that cup to the top and it starts overfilling, that's the same exact thing as stress.
Yeah.
So if I have this cup and I'm putting all the stress into it, I'm never like recovering or emptying it out or doing what I need to do to like lower and drain it. Well, what ends up happening? I end up creating this, you know, this asshole who, you know, doesn't want no one around, hates the world and everything else like that. So realistically now, dude, like when we bring it full circle, right? When I bring it full circle, I'm not here just to go ahead and help an athlete how to squat, how to snatch, how to do all that stuff. No. No, like anybody can do that. Anybody can teach someone how to pick a barbell up and put it over their head. Anybody can teach someone how to go run 2 miles. Anybody can teach them to swim. Well, what I want to do as a human performance optimist and that kind of coach is help people outside those other 23 hours that I don't get to work with them or see them or help them out. Because I care about their lifestyle outside of it, because at the end of the day, it's all about longevity.
Right.
And if we're not promoting longevity, what are we doing it for? Right? So that's one of those things. I want to help promote longevity so that you can go and live this long, prosperous lifestyle with your loved ones and your kids.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I've loved about coming on to full-time with Soflete is the fact that it's not about people hitting PRs or anything like that. It's the fact that when we get told, hey, you're changing my life for the better outside of the gym.
Yeah.
Outside of the gym. And you know, everyone makes fun of me now because I've done this like slowly kind of rebranding myself, I guess you can say, as like, hey, look, it's not always about lifting, it's about lifestyle, and it's about how you treat your life. And it's like you said in our show, input, output.
Yeah.
And I really love that, and I'm gonna keep that now. I'm gonna take that to heart. I might even get it tattooed on me somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Like input, output. So I was like, all right, whatever I put into my body, that's what's gonna end up coming out. So if I put anything negative into my body, if I take it through the mental state negatively, it's gonna come out negative, right?
Yeah.
But if I can alter how I look at something and turn it into a positive thought or positive input, it's gonna end up becoming a positive output.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's led me to this day, man, is where, you know, now working full time with Soflete, loving life. I'm really in a very, very, very good place in my life right now.
It's awesome,
emotionally,
dude.
physically, spiritually, and mentally.
So here we are. This is 2018, dude.
Yeah.
We're 8 years out from that gnarly deployment. And I would say only within the past year, I've found myself, like I mentioned on your podcast, with that mind, body, spirit, just feeling better than I have my whole life. And I guess, you know, it takes me here walking with you on the beach where you find yourself in a similar state to realize it takes time, dude.
It does.
People put too much pressure on themselves, and pressure is another big deal.
Yep.
Pressure is kind of like stress. If you there's areas of pressure in your life that can cause harm as well.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, just not putting too much pressure on yourself to get yourself to a good spot.
To a good spot.
Oh, why isn't this happening for me like right away? This took me years to get here, and it was hard work. But
I love the fact that you said that it takes time and it's patience.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how slow time was until I was doing some hot exposure or heat exposure work in the sauna and some breathing protocol work. And on the back end, I did a max effort breath hold.
Yeah.
And like I'm counting in my head with my eyes closed. I just closed my eyes. Like I'm literally, this was like how of an impact it was in my life that I can close my eyes right now and envision it. And I'm gonna try and do this for everyone so they can close their eyes.
Yeah.
So I literally would sit there, get into the sauna, you know, I'm drenched with sweat. I've been in there for about 20 minutes. And I had altered my mind state of like, I'm not in a sauna, I'm in a rainforest.
Yeah.
And I'm just being rained on.
Yeah.
It's super humid. I'm being rained on and I'm enjoying it. Just
awesome.
be one with what's going on. Have I ever been in a rainforest before in my life? No. But at that time and moment, I was.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. So I'm sitting that back and I'm now doing my max effort breath hold. And like I said, sweat's dripping down my body, down my face, and I'm again exaggerating and imagining that I'm in this rainforest. Open my eyes and there's this clock out of the door. And I'm thinking I've been holding my breath for like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Had only been holding my breath for literally 20 seconds. So I kept my eyes open.
Yeah.
Kept staring at the clock, and it was just going tick, tick, tick.
Oh
tick.
yeah.
And I guarantee you, no one's ever slowed down enough to look at a clock, to look at a hand clock with the timer going on it, or looking at their phone and seeing how long it takes to go to the next second. That time and moment was when I realized time is fucking slow. Patience is what I need to have, and it's gonna take time. And what I love the fact that you said it's taken us almost 8 years to really refine ourselves after that deployment.
Yeah.
People heard about us. We were the Black Diamonds of 1st Recon Battalion. Sons of Satan, right? Like we were those guys. We were those guys out there who helped 3-5, who helped 3-7, who did all that stuff. And we come back and it's like, cool, what's next? What's next, right? And going back to the beginning of what I was talking about was like, I still see guys, and I'm pretty sure you see your brothers too, like from Bravo Company, how everyone's now coming to like, who's alive? Who's alive today is now finding themselves.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now, dude. I've seen Jeff Watson, I've seen Nate Simpson, I've seen all those guys, Adam Levine, all those homies that were my dudes, that Cahill, all those guys, dude, that were, now they're finding themselves, they're happy again.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I'm pretty sure you see it on your end too with some of those guys. Like, it's taken 8 fucking years for us to really kind of go there. But we all did what? We all found something that we could attach ourselves to that wasn't the military and wasn't our past.
Exactly. Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
And this is where it's today. Why does meditation and why does breathing work and why does yoga and why does all that stuff work for people? Because it slows you down.
It does.
It slows you down and it creates this illusion that you cannot be messed with because that's your time.
It's just like us out here walking. Like, at no point do I feel an urgency to get to the end of wherever we're walking.
I totally forgot that we were going to be going.
But like, I stopped there for a second. There was this cool, like, you know, the little gold-looking flakes of sand, like getting rushed back out. And here we are recording a podcast, but like, just because we started talking about meditation, I found myself like getting in this calm state. And I think that's what's cool is the more you do it, the more you have access to that state. And it's just like, I just stopped. I was like, there's no need to keep walking. I want to enjoy this moment.
Exactly.
Looking at this gold stuff, like go back out in the ocean.
You know what I call that? I call it a recovery.
Yeah.
And the reason why I call that a recovery is because we want your brain to wander off and then come back. wander off, and then come back. Because guess who's controlling that to bring it back? You are.
Yeah.
Right? So, for instance, now we're back into this active state, right? We're at this active state now where we're talking. All of a sudden, we stop now, and I just want to listen. That right there was just a recovery for us.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Do I want to be in this?
I'm smiling right now,
yeah.
dude.
Like, do I want to be, literally, do I want to be in such a calm state for all the time?
Yeah.
No, what does that do for me?
Yeah.
And a really good friend of mine, I look up to him a lot, like he told me, because he's the one that's really big into meditation right now, he ended up telling me this. He's like, it's not about how long you can stay calm, it's about how you can control from going active to calm, because those are repetitions just like lifting weights.
Because believe it or not, I can go from 0 to 100 right now.
Yeah.
If somebody was to walk out on this beach with like a knife or something and come at us,
Yeah.
I would jump immediately out of that meditative state and into my fight state. You
So-
know? And
so-
it's like,
We're doing what we're meant to do.
yeah,
We look at tigers, we look at lions, we look at anybody that any kind of animal in nature.
yeah,
They're like us right now.
They're just chilling.
calm,
Yeah.
chilling. All of a sudden, they need to go hunt. Boom.
like that.
Let's go and do it. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, they're done hunting. What do they go back and do now? They go back and sleep,
Yeah.
or they go back and chill.
Yeah.
That's all it is,
Yeah.
right? But people get so caught up with just, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going, and I gotta keep going. It's like, how about you just? And if you slow down, you will realize how much more time you have in your life.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing I realized was like, when I started slowing down, I realized that I had a lot of time on my hands that I could do things.
Yep. It's really helped in relationships too, because whenever there's a point of tension or whatever,
Yep.
I've learned to, one, as humans, we naturally mirror each other's
Yes.
emotions. Like, if you go up to somebody, they've done all these tests, right? Where if you smile, like somebody will smile back.
Yeah.
Stuff
You
like
yawn,
that,
someone
yeah.
else will yawn.
Exactly, and it's just hardwired in us. That's where a lot of people get caught up when they're having arguments, or, you know, somebody gets a little agitated about something, you know?
Yes.
And it's usually over nothing, dude. It's usually over something so simple. And you just, it's taking, if one of you can, it's not about being the better person, because there is no better person, right? You're just you. But if you can somehow allow any of that negativity rising up to just like blow past you, and you just focus on breathing.
Yep.
Don't be quick to say stuff. Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself just, anytime I'm faced with any type of like adversity or intense like situation that maybe, you know, I want to see this kind of ease out, I always go to the breath, dude.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what it does. You're creating space for that person you love to calm down themselves.
Yes.
You're not coming back with the natural, like that reaction just to be, you know, match that intensity with intensity.
Yes.
And it's amazing what it can do.
And it's funny you say that all, because the physiology side of all of this, right, is we create brain waves, right? And it's not about that, hey, we're all on the same wavelength. No, we're all just looking in the right direction at that time and moment. For instance, right now, me and you are walking down this beach together, facing the same direction.
Yeah.
Let's go and say if I turn away and I start walking opposite way, how hard would it be right now for us to have this conversation? It would be hard, because I wouldn't be able to be able to listen to see what you say. I wouldn't be able to know what direction you're going.
Yeah.
And that's how I see life now. Only reason why I have people in my life is because they're looking in the same direction as I am. And I look at it like as a road map.
Yeah.
We look at a map. We have all these main roads that everyone needs to follow. But on that road map, there's unpaved roads, there's railroad tracks, there's mountains, there's rivers, there's all these other ways to get through from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And everyone takes that main road. I don't want to be that person no more. I want to be that fucking guy who was known that he ended up taking the exit on I-5 and ended up cutting over fucking Galavetis Lake there in Carlsbad, over that lake through the mountain to get to the next point. Because guess what? Going through all of those mountains and everything else created adversity and created change. which created adaptation to make me a better human being.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to start learning and understanding, and what I want to do to help others.
That's awesome, dude.
You know, we can go, and now we talk about meditation and going back to the meditation aspect of it all, right? And it's like, you can meditate anywhere. You can.
Sure. Or you can go as deep as, like, I did a guided meditation with the shamanist lady.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, dude.
Yeah?
It was great. That's why I keep saying, get weird with it. Find what works.
Dude, I play with, did you see my post about the chakra bowl?
That was awesome.
I
dude.
love
I'm
it,
like,
dude.
I need to get on that. Dude, there's so many different things I do. It's just exploring different ways to meditate. And you can go as deep or as short as you want. Like you said, it's as simple as doing it anywhere, but you can also benefit from those times where you take the deeper dives.
Exactly.
And it's funny you're talking about the path, and I actually thought about the guided meditation I was in, because it was like she knows I have some Native American in me. It's not a lot, it's like 1/300th or something like that. But some of the Native American stuff that I was reading, some of the healing stuff they did was starting to vibe with me. I'm like, this actually kind of like makes sense to me, you know? And getting more in touch with nature, doing the earthing stuff like that, you know? Connection with animals. And so she had me set up this healing wheel, and then like she's bringing me through this guided meditation. You look in these different directions, and it's like your past influences, your childhood, your dark side, and then like your future, dude. And I just remember, and it was like it was almost like an out of body experience. Like I was just completely in a different like world. And
those are amazing experiences to have.
And I look at my future, and it's just this mountain, dude. And it's a mountain. It's not an easy path.
No,
like,
it's a fucking mountain.
It's a mountain, and carved in this mountain is this clear, just red trail. It's just bright red, like it was almost like like a blood red. But it was probably just like the darkest clay you could ever, find. And it was just, but it was clear cut through the hill, through the mountain, and that made sense. Like some of the other stuff that happened in it, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna need to think about that or whatever. But I have felt this drive in my life. I think people with drive, like people with passion, like they do. They pick that direction in their life, and they're saying,
and they go,
I'm going, and like, oh, if you're trying to pull me away from that, sorry. Like
laters.
Okay, bye. Like no hard feelings.
None
like,
at all.
bye.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because it's your life, dude. And
that's funny you say that, right? As we go to the two words that I love to use is let go.
Yeah.
Let go.
Yeah.
Just let go.
Why? Why hold on to it?
What exactly, right? Is it causing you, if you let go of it, is it going to cause you any harm, or is it going to cause you is it going to give you positivity, right? Like if you're going to let go of it and you know it's not going to have an effect in your life, then awesome. But remember, and I just said that if you let go, it's not going to cause an effect. There's every action, there's a reaction.
Right.
So there is going to be some kind of reaction to that. You just don't know what it is going to be. Yeah. That's why you have to be okay with letting go and experiencing that change with it all. So getting to the meditation now, I feel like that's where we probably should go now after we're talking about all this amazing stuff that we just did. I've actually been experimenting a lot more with my meditation now, with trying to understand my brain waves. So
cool.
Yeah, so so I end up, the only reason why I learned about this is because my good friend Kevin, he's one of my athletes, and I look up to him, like I said. He started using this thing called Muse. And this thing called Muse, it's a meditation headband they put over the top of your mid-forehead, goes around your ears.
We're gonna shoot a vlog of this here in a second.
Yeah, so, we'll go ahead and do that too. And what happens is it starts reading the brain waves in your brain. And you hook it up to your phone, and you get to listen to whatever kind of background you want. So for instance, they have an ocean one. And the way I can explain this is, whenever you start drifting away from your meditation, your mind starts wandering, the waves get louder. When you bring yourself back down into a meditative or to a calm state, it gets pure quiet. You start hearing birds and everything else. And the way we can explain that right now is, say for instance, right now you have this Muse meditation on, you're going for 10 minutes, and you're listening to me and you talk right now. This right now is causing you to get into an active state. Right. That's what's happening. That human being on the other side of wherever they are listening to us talk about it, what happens is they hear us talking. Well, all of a sudden now we go ahead and stop walking and we get quiet. and then we start walking again, and we start talking.
Yeah.
That right there was teaching their body and teaching their mind. It was a repetition to help them
going from a state
of active down to calmness. Yeah. Now, granted, let's say if they're in their car and they're driving or whatever else, but they had all this sensory going on right around them. They had cars around them, they had us talking, but all of a sudden, all we did was we became quiet, had this in the background. And then we continue walking again, right? And then boom, there it is, right? Yeah. But that's your time to take advantage of that repetitions. The more repetitions we get into that session.
Dude, that's the beauty of this whole walk and talk already.
It's
like
amazing.
This example, like we can just pull out
boom.
of nature right
Pull out of nature, dude, like amazing. Yeah. Amazing. No one understands that we have the elements around us. Yeah. We just got to take advantage of it. Yeah. You know, what really kind of opened my eyes too is, and everybody knows who Ben Greenfield is, but he has like a clean house. Like when I say a clean house, he has no electric waves at all going through his house.
Oh, that's awesome. So
when he walks into his house, it's pure bliss.
Yeah, that's how I want to do my future room, at least. But that's a great idea, just a house full of it.
So what he does is he has a switch for all his electricity.
Yeah.
So when he leaves, it turns off, right? And then when he comes in, he can hit a switch to turn it back on. Or if he doesn't, when he comes back in, he doesn't want to turn it back on.
Yeah.
He can enjoy that. So that's something that I've really been getting deep into. Another big thing that I've been doing for the past year is ice exposure work. So I get into ice baths, and I'll sit in there from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 minutes.
I'm doing cold showers, but I want to start doing that.
So the reason why I got into the ice baths was because I started reading and seeing there was research shown that it helps decrease inflammation in the brain.
Yep.
And I was like, and once you start decreasing the inflammation in the brain, you start creating new thoughts, you start creating space in your mind and your brain to really start growing again. You start producing, new protein synthesis that goes through the whole body. You start doing a whole bunch of craziness.
Not having to fight that inflammatory process.
Exactly, right? Like we lower the inflammation. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. There's times, man, and I actually had an out of the body experience like 2 weeks ago, actually. I literally got in there, and I haven't used my Muse yet at all in the ice bath yet.
Yeah.
I will. I'm still trying to really control my mind, and I do it on purpose to get out of it and back in it. But I will. But what I ended up doing was I got in there, started doing some breathing work, and went for, I did some real, they call it breath of fire. Wim Hof teaches his Wim Hof method. It's like so I start over-oxygenating my body.
Yeah.
Well, at like 20, when I'm done with that, I go into a max breath hold. And I'll sit there and just relax in that cold water and hold that breath. And then I can start manipulating where I want my oxygen to go in my body, is how I feel it. So if I'm cold, hey, everything go ahead. Don't just go to my core or my heart, go to everywhere in my body.
Yeah.
That's my first step that I focus on. Once I've noticed that I've become warm and I forget that I'm in that space, I start to see myself drift out of my head.
Yeah.
And I start to see myself seeing everything around me where I'm at in that environment. And where I have my ice bath is in my garage.
Yeah.
So, I can tell you right now, the way it is, I have my ice bath up against the left side of the wall. Boom, it's there. I have my my wetsuits on top of a fan. In front of me, I have boxes in front of me because we have the Raider Challenge this week, so I have all my protein stuff in there we're going to be selling. To the right of me now, I have my daughter's bike, 3-wheel tricycle, right? And there's a big old dresser in there that has a bunch of stuff in it too. And then I have my mountain bike and my road bike. And I'm looking at all this and observing, and then I see myself inside that ice bath, just chilling and relaxing.
Yeah.
And in this time and moment, I am the happiest. I'm sitting there and just like amazed by it all. But the funny thing is, people are like, oh, well, that's cool. How do I get into that state? And it takes time.
I'm laughing, just so people know, I'm not laughing at that being silly. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my own experiences.
Yeah.
And like just how awesome it is. This is like a joyous laughter because I'm thinking of some of the meditations I've done.
Yeah.
And dude, that's just awesome that we have this ability.
Yes, we
do that. You just got to tap into it.
You just have to tap into it, right? And it takes time.
What's the they're coming out with these studies recently. I saw something that was like we're only using a certain percentage of our potential as
Yes.
humans, like
Yes.
physically, everything. Like
Yeah.
that's why the lady, we were talking about earlier, adrenaline can lift a car off a baby or whatever. Like you have the power there.
It's all in you. You just have to tap into it.
Yeah.
And the problem, and I think the problem with that is I think for a while we were tapping into it, and then we started putting out all this AI stuff, this artificial intelligence, social media. And what ended up happening was we stopped creating dopamine and we stopped creating the endorphins that we needed, that we were getting from everyday life. Like right now, what we're doing, we're getting nothing but dopamine.
Yeah.
We're getting this huge endorphin rush, right? That's helping us grow. This is what I want. People end up going on their phones and getting that dopamine effect whenever that phone turns on or they ever get a like, right? And I feel like that has stopped a lot of people's potential.
Oh yeah, big time.
And it's caused problems. It's caused sicknesses. It's caused death. Just like you're saying, right? We lead this life of we have all this potential, but we're not using it.
And if you're just taking in all the time and not creating something in the world, I mean, just as simple as coming out here and I'm putting my footprint in the sand, dude. That's like,
You're leaving your mark on the earth right now.
exactly. There's something leaving my body, right? An image of my foot is being left every time I take a step on this beach. And so, to making a video, it's just if you're sitting there taking in other people's stuff all day and then just waiting for somebody to like you, which is fake. It's not even like people pay for likes, it could be fake. It could not even be a real thing,
Yep.
And
But
so
this is real.
this is, and dude, I think it's good to hear somebody else discovered this stuff besides myself, because sometimes I feel like people think I'm a little crazy. I don't care.
I don't care either.
I don't care at all because I feel great.
I know it's funny, dude. It's like everyone looks at us like, what the kind of hippie shit are you doing? Or like,
Yeah. Why does it always have to be like? Why do we have that connotation?
yeah,
Like,
and
it's just
realistically,
hippie stuff.
realistically, it's not. It's like I'm actually just doing something to better my life.
Yeah.
Just because it's out of the ordinary to you doesn't mean it's weird,
Yeah.
right? It's like, how about you create an open mind to all this
Yeah.
and actually try some of this out, right? So how does someone get into this? How does someone get into learning about like just being one with nature and meditating and breathing?
Sometimes you trip up and fall, which is like one of my meditations.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was doing, and I ended up in an out-of-body experience, and I wasn't ready for it. And I was meditating in my bedroom, and I started. What made me think of this is like when you're talking about the thinking of your brain waves in your brain. Like, I took my medical knowledge and I was like, I'm gonna narrow down in like. Have you seen that meme where they're yelling at that like kid, the drilling sergeant, and they're look up, look down, look right, look at your own face, and he's all like, and then it goes out into like the galaxy or whatever. That's basically what I was trying to do in this meditation. Was like look inside my head.
Oh
And,
my
like,
God.
And thinking of the functions of my brain, like picturing the blood getting like, pumped into it through the different arteries and veins, and like really like visualizing as I'm meditating and like deep breathing. And I like, do this thing where I don't even know the chakras, but I like go through what I think are chakras and kind of like get myself rooted to the ground and everything.
Yeah.
And like, see, that's the thing. It doesn't matter. You said earlier, like, oh, I found yoga and like, that's awesome. Really, I haven't really became a yogi.
No,
I just like, I used it as a tool for like deep breathing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like, but you don't have to like totally like sell yourself to that modality or whatever.
It's funny to say that, right? We were talking about rewriting our story as human beings.
Yeah.
Like we always need to rewrite our story, right? Always rewrite it, always rewrite it, always rewrite it. But the problem is that everyone thinks when they rewrite it that they have to take on this whole new person. And realistically, no, it's not. No. I don't look at it like that, right? You're rewriting the story, this new purpose of your life. Everything underneath it that I'm doing is a tool, is a sub-purpose to leading me to my main purpose. The same thing in a book, right? It could be a chapter of your life, right? Oh, sweet, now this chapter in that book is talking about the meditation work, oh, the breathing work, oh, the movement work, oh, the fitness aspect, oh, the nutrition. How about the love and the empathy side of things? Like, these are all just pieces and tools that are in my toolbox to let me live this life of this purpose that I really want to be.
Yeah. And dude, so I went in with the intention. I was like, okay, I'm gonna use that as a tool to kind of like release myself from my brain. Is like look at its function, and then I'm gonna explore this thing they call the third eye, like that keeps showing up in different like religious teachings and all this stuff. I'm gonna try and use my third eye to explore our connection to the world. Yeah. And so after I did that with my brain, I like started to like picture this gold dust coming out of my like third eye, and next thing you know, I was gone, dude. Like I was outside of my body. I was completely like, all I remember is like coming into this big tree, and like then it was like all of a sudden it was just the rest was a flash. Yeah. Like the rest was a flash, and it was like I was getting told the secrets of the universe of how we're connected. And then I like came back into my body like violently, like convulsing on the bed, literally.
Holy cow.
Just like, whoa, like getting rocked back into my body. I felt like I was like I had died.
Holy cow.
And I was like, oh my God. So I came to, and I like Googled what happened. And it was just like, the first thing that came up was like awake lucid dreaming. And I like read the description, and it's basically like almost exactly what happened.
That's sweet.
And I was like, and I stumbled into that, dude.
You weren't even trying to do it.
I wasn't even.
Well, and that's the great thing about all this, right? We're exploring.
Yeah, but it was allowing myself to like, it's really allowing yourself to disconnect from yourself, or like these things they talk about like ego death or what, I don't know. Like I'm still exploring it.
That's
dude,
the same thing
like,
here, right? Like, and that's another big thing that I've learned with all of this. I've learned not to have expectations.
Yeah.
Because I realized when I started having expectations toward things, if they didn't follow through with it, I became very upset, or I became in this state of depression, or I was like negative about it, right? And I was like, wait a minute, how about if I just approach this with not having expectations and just going with the flow of whatever this universe has me going on this path? Just let it take me, right? So for instance, I didn't have no expectations for this podcast. Did you? No, I didn't have no expectations for your podcast, but when we got together, because we hadn't seen each other in fucking almost 4 years, it all of a sudden this just alignment just became together, and we're like, boom, and this is what's happening. I'm not gonna lie, this is the first time me ever talking about any of this with somebody.
I've talked about it on Sidebar, but
I've talked about it. Not even Sidebar.
I've like mentioned it, but like I've alluded to it in my podcast, but I've never like.
Yeah, this is legitimately my first time ever going out talking about this deep of the stuff that we're talking about. Yeah. But you know what? I think it's a great thing. It shows growth in us. Yeah. It shows that, hey, look, I'm okay with who I am and what I'm becoming because it's making me better.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all that matters.
And I think some people might have had a scare there, like wondering, for my soul and like, what am I getting into? Like, it's nothing. I'm getting into life.
There's more people like us, dude. There's so many people. Like,
don't worry about my soul, because spiritually I feel better and more connected to whatever this thing is that this life is than I ever have in my life. So don't worry about me. Like,
I'm laughing, and I'm also smiling in a very joyful way, because I posted that video last night. And this is probably when we put on this podcast comes out. It's probably gonna be, but I'm raising money for this program called Get on the Bus that helps kids go visit their family, their parents in jail that are incarcerated. Yeah. And I put it out, posted it, whatever else, and somebody Facebook messaged me and was like, hey, I think it's really cool what you're doing, whatever else, but it seemed like there was something more that you wanted to talk about. And I'm like, I'm not sure what that means. Like, he was like, it just seems like there's something wrong, like there's something spiritually, like, and I'm like, I'm just in a very good state in my life to where it's weird for some people, right? Like, it's really weird, and like how calm and mellow compared to where we were back in the day to where we are now. And it's just like, all right, cool. But you're right. We are just in new places, in new mindsets, and we've opened our mind to new things, right? We opened our body to new things, to really grow to be this new human being that we are today, right? Like, you're loving life. You're out here in California, you're getting ready to go run the Raider Challenge. You're getting ready to do all these things that are giving you that prosperous life that you want. Yeah. So now you tell me that I'm wrong by that and that I'm not living the life that I want. I don't care about living life with money. I want to now live my life with quality. Yeah. Quality of life is what matters, because at the end of the day, we die, We don't die with no money going in our pockets.
Money comes and goes. It's all ones and zeros and electronic coin based, like
yeah.
whatever.
Right? But what we do leave our life with is our legacy. Right? And what we did for ourselves to know that, hey, if I die tomorrow, I'm happy with how I'm living life right now.
I will argue that point, and not argue it. I'll just say my point of view is I've been playing with this idea of it's not so much about legacy or a statue left in your name, like this dude really lived his life. Like, guess what? The pyramids have been like completely ransacked, and none of that stuff is left over. Like, it's all like broken up, and like, you know, you got ISIS going around destroying statues and stuff. Like, dude, statues crumble. The earth is going to get swallowed by the sun eventually. Like, really what matters is your life and staying true to yourself and making the best of it. There's beauty in that. There is the legacy that other people can look to and say, that was a beautiful life, you know? But it doesn't necessarily, I think a lot of people fight to struggle to build something that like physically needs to be like left over or written about, and like, you know, the whole Achilles deal, like, oh, they need to sing your name through the ages. Like, well, I got news for you. Like, people misrepresent history all the time, or, you know, totally erase history all the time. So, I just try, again, in my whole like stress management, little input out management, I try not worry so much about if people remember me or not. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about just making the best out of this. And you know what? When you do that, I think people do end up remembering.
Exactly. But that's the thing is like, and I love that. I love that point of view, because it kind of turns my point of view into a full circle now. It's like, okay, cool. I'm not really trying to create a legacy. I'm just trying to create a life that I live to the fullest, right? And by me doing that, it's going to go ahead and inspire others to do the same thing.
Exactly.
And that's all it is at the end of the day.
That's just going to be the effect. It's going to be like a cause and effect of it.
It is, yeah, right? Yeah, that's all it is, man.
But dude, yeah, this brings up all kinds of other, I'm sorry to get on other topics, but I say we wrap this one up and seal it, because I even wanted to start talking about hunting and like the spirituality I find in that, because like here we are talking about the hippy dippy, you know, what people would say meditation side, but dude, I've had some spiritual journeys on the hunt lately, and I didn't even think about that till now when we started talking about that. And dude, there's some healing to be found there, but our connection with like the earth animal, where our food comes from, like
it's all human. It's all human connection. Like, our body was meant to do that stuff. Like, we were meant to go and hunt our food, right? That was huge. And like, I feel like that's being taken away from us. And those who do hunt understand what we're talking about. That heartbeat, boom, 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 when you're getting ready to take down that buck or that elk, knowing that like, hey, I'm gonna be able to feed my family for the next month or 2 months off of this.
Or just like maybe let an animal go, that maybe it's
that
not,
too.
like maybe it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
And those have happened. When I was a kid hunting, I never realized, and I'm putting it back together now with this, I never realized, like, I always used to get upset whenever I didn't get to kill an animal.
Yeah.
But I look back at it now, and it's like, it just wasn't meant to be at that time and moment. I wasn't meant to go ahead and take an animal's life, to go ahead and feed my family. There was another way to do it, or just, you know, create that time period in my life.
Then I've had this, one of the bucks I got this season, not the one you had the picture of. I actually haven't released any photos of this one just because it was such a spiritual experience.
Wow.
And it was a 10-pointer, came out really old dude, and I was having a migraine like seizure episode, so I'm sitting there trimmering and like trying to get my rifle up, and he's just dancing, the scope is just dancing around him, dude, and he stayed right there, and he just looked at me for like 15 seconds. He just stayed and waited for me I went to my breath, I started breathing, and I was able to dial that scope in to where it just hit this magic moment where I had the shot, and I took it, and he stood there the whole time, and it was just looking at me like, dude, he's like, you know what? I came across the dude that can take me. Like, That's is yours.
Fucking awesome.
This is yours. And I dropped him right there, went up to him, and I was such in a bad state from that migraine and everything. I could barely, I dropped my rifle afterwards, and I could barely hold him up for like a picture. And when I took him to the taxidermy, the guy said he was the oldest deer he's seen. And I processed all the meat myself in my house, like, you know, and
That's awesome, dude.
so it was literally, I mean, this deer coming up, like, he was a fighter too.
Yeah.
Like, he had all these scars down his back, broken
He's
antlers
lean.
and stuff.
He's seen life.
And he's like, you know what? You're like me. He's like, you know what? It's my time, and I know I'm going to like the guy who deserves it. And
That's awesome,
dude, that's something that you just can't find unless you get out there and like experience it. You know, like what all the other deer, you had 3 seconds, they're gone. Poof.
Gone.
And he just stayed there. Just stayed there. You know?
That's crazy, man. I can't even, like, I don't even know what to say, that I'm like speechless by all that, dude, because that just says a lot right there. Like, going back to the direction, right? We're all walking in that same direction together. That's the reason why we're together. That deer was in that same direction that you were, and y'all both were just, let's make it happen. That's great, man.
So yeah. But anyways, dude, this has been an awesome podcast.
I really appreciate you getting me on it, man. I really do.
Yeah, and I'm glad I worked out some kinks before we did this one, because, dude, this is important for people, because a lot of people, they haven't discovered this yet. Maybe they're too afraid or whatever, and that's what I would challenge people is, like, if you're listening to this, is just, again, when I say get weird with it, this is what I'm talking about. And it's not really weird. I mean, it's different. It's different than what all the other sheep are doing.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's what works.
It is what it
and, to get into meditation, I would just suggest start with the breathing.
Yeah.
To learn some diaphragmatic breathing. It was me watching a video of one of the Gracies doing some beach like drills where he's like rolling around and doing like diaphragmatic breathing. And I was like, okay, I can replicate that. I know where my diaphragm is. I know how I can like start like intentionally engaging it and stuff like that. And that's where I started, and then I took that into yoga, and then it just developed from there.
The steps that I tell everyone that whenever my athletes come on board with me or ever explain it all, I end up telling them, hey, look, this is what you do. Find a floor, find a reference point for your back. Yeah. Close your mouth, breathe in through your nose with the tongue on the top of your roof of your mouth. So when you do that, it gives you the pathway to your diaphragm. The goal now is not to push your belly up to the sky, it's to push your back into the floor.
Oh, wow.
So now you're creating this 360 degree circumference, which is now getting the oxygen. Cool, once you've found that, sit there and start with 10 breaths. And start with 5 breaths, or 15 breaths, or with 20 breaths. And then by the time you know it, you're sitting there and just finally just focusing on breathing, you're meditating.
Yeah.
That right there is meditating. And if at times and moments you hear distractions come in and out, key to them real quick, keep your eyes closed, key to it, and then bring yourself back to your breath. If you can really focus on doing that, that's gonna end up leading you into the right way of going into it. And I guarantee you, after you're done with that and you start increasing it, you're gonna see amazing results.
It just makes the stuff you're talking about, like the optimization, like being able to tell when your body needs to like be able to change its state. Like when I feel like I'm in an intense situation or like argument or something's coming on, my body immediately knows, because I've practiced the meditation, it just goes, breathe, dude. And I immediately know to do that.
Yeah.
It's weird how your body is like, once you start exercising that drill, getting that muscle memory of like breathing, it carries over to so many different aspects of your life that you now consciously think about it. You realize when you're holding your breath, which I'd never noticed till I really got into the breath work, was just like, all of a sudden I'll be in a situation, I'll be like, dude, you're not breathing right now.
So that's another
like,
big thing too, right? Is like, if you hold your breath and you start freaking out about it, tell your mind to calm down.
Yeah.
And it's gonna go ahead and bring you back into a calm state. I've learned that with this Muse, it's really been able to help me really solidify some of my breathing protocols and numbers that I'm using, with a 7-second inhale, maybe a 7-second hold, and a 14-second exhale. What I've learned with that and realized was that, like, in that first 2 seconds, my mind goes, whoa, and then all of a sudden it just eases. And the longer I get into that breath hold, the more calm state I get into. So at that time and period, I really believe that that's where you learn how to calm your mind also, not just through the inhale and exhale.
Yeah, dude, so let's wrap this one up. What's the new podcast? Where can people find?
So they can find me at obviously Soflete. Soflete, we're creating 2 accounts for podcasts. One is the Die Living podcast. The other one is the fitness one, which is our human training lab. I'm in Hybrid Training Lab. They can find me there if they want. They can hit me up on Instagram at Soflete_GB3. They can email me at george@soflete.com if they need to get a hold of me. Find me on Facebook and message me. I pretty much respond to everyone's as much as I can, and do my best to really kind of respond within a quick manner.
Yeah, and I mean, I've loved to see what Soflete's been doing. I think, as far as people, because I get a lot of inquiries into like, hey, how do I get into SARCs? How do I get into special operations, stuff like that. I think Soflete has a legit if you're planning to go special operations program, like prep program.
Yeah, the selection prep program is a really good program that was written. Brett did a really good job on that.
And so I can't recommend Soflete enough for people looking to make positive changes. And the stuff the forward thinking you guys are doing with stuff like this, I mean, that's huge for people to learn.
Yeah, and it's crazy, man, as you say that, and I've been really lucky that they've let me kind of take this holistic approach and share it.
Yeah, because not everybody receives it well.
No, not at all.
But
no.
So yeah, find him on Soflete, and make sure you share this if you found that like this rings a bell with you. Like, hey, maybe I need to add some meditation into your life. Chances are somebody else does.
Yeah.
You know. So, anyways, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for listeing to us, and thank you, Dan. Appreciate it,
George,
brother.
this has been an awesome time.
Awesome, Bubba.
So
Appreciate
good to
it.
see you, dude.